I was able to find an organization called Bo's Place, and they help with grief at all types of loss. And they had a pregnancy loss support group. And, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, well, I'll go there for the sake of research to figure out how I can be meaningful in helping the community. But that was, Tracy, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, was going to that support group, knowing that at least once a week, I was going to be able to sit on a couch with other women who just got it because they'd gone through it. And it was easier to talk to them about it than anyone else, including my husband, because of the fact that, we were women.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Pebble. And I am truly blessed today to have Jamilah Robinson of Missing Pieces Support Group to talk with us today. And when I first met her in another networking group, I said, I have got to get this woman to come speak with us on The Pebble. And when we were talking, we couldn't stop talking because it was one thing after the other. We're like, oh my gosh, I understand. Oh my gosh, I understand. And that's the kind of person that I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you. That is what The Pebble is about. And so we know I can talk too much, and I'm working on that. It's part of my 2025 plan. So I am just going to allow the lovely Jamilah to introduce herself. So welcome, my friend. And why don't you give us a little info on yourself and about little about Missing Pieces?
Sure. And thank you, Tracy, for inviting me to be a part of this. I feel honored to share, my story and about our charity on a platform like yours,
Oh,
because like you said, you get it. And I believe that will resonate with your audience as well.
I
So a bit about me. I'm a mom. I'm also a mom of loss, pregnancy loss. I've been married to my college sweetheart since 2010. Uh, we dated pretty long term and long distance for a while. And then we have a 10-year-old son named Cameron. He'll be 11 next month, which breaks my heart. He'll be going into middle school in August. And we have a little 5-year-old girl named Lacey. And she is our rainbow baby. In between them, we had 2 miscarriages. And, there was a lot of silent suffering and mental health working through that I needed to get through. Um, but, I'm in a better place now because we're able to, you know, connect and reach back into a pregnancy loss community that me and my fellow board members have we found ourselves in, with next step resources that can be a game changer for someone who doesn't know what to do next. So, and that is what our charity Missing Pieces Support Group offers to the women and family who encounter pregnancy loss.
I just love that. And you and I were just talking a few moments before we came on, and I always check in with people that, are you going to be okay talking about these things? And what I loved that, so I want to share it with our audience, is
Yes, yes.
that you said, because I know that I'm helping people, I'm okay talking about everything. Nothing is hard for me. And that really touched me deeply because I felt the same way. These days, I've kind of become the go-to sibling loss person. And it's been this past year was 29 years. This coming October will be 30 years since we lost my brother. And it isn't
Mm-hmm.
that like I don't still miss him or anything. And it's not like, oh, 30 years, of course it's okay. It's not like that. It's just that when I talk to people and I see that I help them, it helps.
Right.
And so when you said that, I was like, yes, again,
Yeah.
we get
I'm
each other.
glad you understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it did hurt, knowing the fact that if I told my story, it was going to help somebody behind me that's going through it, I still do it, right? But uh, that impact is empowering. And I just remember, like, when I was going through this pregnancy loss experience, I felt so powerless. I felt voiceless and I felt unseen.
Yeah.
So, being the voice for that person that's going through it, uh, it gives them a boost in knowing that they are understood. And it helps with, the moving forward as well.
Yes, and you said to me one of the most sad words in the world, unseen. And
Yes,
if we can do anything with this project for me, is to just make people feel seen, because
yes,
I have said more than once that for me, the pebble is about lots of little things that you can do in your own life that make you feel better. And many of them really result in feeling a little more seen in your life.
yes,
And
yes,
so when you talk about when you go through a tragedy or a heartbreak and you don't feel seen, I just don't think there's much worse in the world than not
there's not.
feeling seen. And so, and I think that that is what the good that the internet can do. That
Yes,
I've spoken about my journey when I first got online, that my first little blog that was on blogspot.com. We didn't buy our own domains. We didn't have Facebook yet. And
right.
it was just a mother that didn't have a community. I was new in town and I just felt lost, and I just started writing, and I didn't expect anyone to see it or read it or anything. And I found like-minded mothers. And so
Hmm.
that's what I want to do here is with voices like yours to say, hey, it's okay that you don't feel okay right now.
Right,
And
right.
you've created an in-person group, which is amazing. But
Oh,
not
absolutely.
everybody has access to that, right? Not everybody, whether they live rurally or whatever, they don't maybe always have access to that. But the fact that they know that they're not alone, the fact that they can hear, see you and say, okay, she survived and she had her rainbow baby. And maybe they will have a rainbow baby, or maybe they won't. But the fact that
Yeah.
they can see somebody who came on the other side, I mean, you dedicated your life to helping people get to the other side.
Yes, and thank you for bringing up our support groups. We've expanded in that outreach in itself. So not only do we have the in-person support groups, which are right now in the greater Houston area, but we have virtual options for the support group that we run in tandem with those opportunities. Um, and the important part about that is we want to give every woman or man now who has gone through this experience the opportunity to experience a safe space where they can emote and talk about what they've gone through. And when you're in the same room or the same virtual room as somebody who's gone through it, you're more comfortable with opening up because you know that you're not going to be triggered by anything that's said there. Like these people are not going to say the wrong things about your loss because they've been through it. And so, meeting the need at that face level of being seen and understood by your peers It's so helpful. And so, we've got the in-person piece as well as the virtual piece now, and we are currently structuring curriculum to support dads too,
Yes.
knowing that, it may not look the same as sitting on a couch talking it out, which is what women are good at, right? It may be an activity and then a talk, or however that comes into play. We want to have a safe space for them to talk about their grief and figure out how to move forward.
And
So,
I
yeah,
appreciate
we're
you
really proud of
saying
that.
that because I think that for a long time, w- men didn't feel safe saying that they were hurting too because they didn't
Right,
have the baby in their body and they thought they
right,
just had to take care of their wife because how could they have bonded yet, and we our society hasn't supported that. Men can have had their anticipations and hopes and
right,
in that baby as well. And they wouldn't have had the hormonal and the physical, so it's not the same. But they can have loss too, and that we need to help them be supported and still also support the loss of their wives and finding
right.
that spot. And I love that you are creating curriculum specific to that space because I think that we have for too long neglected the appropriate emotional needs for men with pregnancy
Absolutely.
loss, with infant loss.
Men in
Yes,
general get overlooked when it comes to anything about feelings and, their responsibilities as the dad and the father. It's an underserved community of being seen. They have
and
the same issue of being unseen and unheard.
And then we say, well, why didn't you support her? Well, they don't have the skill set. How can you expect them to do so, especially if
Right,
they're suffering on their own and not getting their needs met either? So I really
right.
appreciate that. And definitely I will get the virtual offerings that you have and we'll share those with our audience because I really do appreciate that you offer that up as well. Because
Yes,
especially now with certain states, especially rural states, having really high maternal loss and prenatal loss rates, they're also the people who have least advantage of support.
right.
So that's really wonderful to know.
And they are physically isolated. So just imagine the feeling of isolation compounded because there's no one literally around you.
I,
That's tough.
Absolutely. And what would you say that what spirit brought you to that? Because something must have changed in you. I mean, you came from deep pain. So how
Hmm.
did you find your way out from being the person who needed help to being a person able to offer help? Because not everybody makes that shift. It's very easy to stay inside the tunnel and you're in the middle and you don't know, you can see light at the end each way and not know which way to run to. Somehow you found a direction and went to the light. How did you do that?
Quite honestly, it was with the help of a support group. So my first miscarriage, I did seek seek the support of a therapist, which was good. And in those sessions, the first couple, at least, he had me and my husband talk together so that, he could understand what happened to me when and the feelings that I experienced when it happened. And I could hear his side of the story. That was so great and meaningful. But then the conversation turned into more than about the grief. And we just didn't feel supported anymore in getting that nurtured attention. So we stopped going. And then the second miscarriage, when it happened again, I felt even more broken and I was even more depressed. Um, to the point where my husband is like, you need to seek help. And around that time I was still looking for ways to help support the community that I had found myself in through pregnancy loss. And so, I did have this resource of a directory of help from, talking to someone that wanted to help me. She had encountered a stillbirth, and you get a little bit more information the further along you are in a pregnancy. And it listed support groups. Now mind you, this was back in 2018, not too long ago, but the resource listing, it felt like it was something out of the 80s. Like, it was printed out on typewriter paper. Like, some of the things didn't even exist anymore. So just imagine trying to filter through that as you're grieving. Anyways,
No,
I was able to find an organization called Bo's Place, and they help with grief at all types of loss. And they had a pregnancy loss support group. And, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, well, I'll go there for the sake of research to figure out how I can be meaningful in helping the community. But that was, Tracy, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, was going to that support group, uh, knowing that at least once a week I was going to be able to sit on a couch with other women who just got it because they'd gone through it. And it was easier to talk to them about it than anyone else, including my husband, because of the fact that, we were women. We were the ones that were carrying
right,
these babies that we hoped for and then lost, and then had this trauma happen to our body, uh, not even knowing what was going to happen next, because nobody's talking about what a miscarriage is or what a stillbirth is. You don't know the next steps into that. Nobody even knows that you still have to birth a baby
right,
when you have a miscarriage. They call it a DNC, but it is basically aborting what is inside of you
right.
so
Yeah.
that it is no longer there.
The lack of
So
knowledge on that front is terrifying and
it
is
is
even more so now, I think. And I understand. And I should share with the audience, because you and I discussed that I had a late in life surprise pregnancy and in a pregnancy loss. And yes,
yes.
you do, because when you lose the baby, your body doesn't quite know what to do, and it needs help along, and it's very, very traumatic. And unless you've gone through it, it's people don't know. It adds an extra element of the trauma, um,
Yes.
and that
Yes, for sure.
people don't want to talk about that part because there's the whole politics on the side of things that they don't want to talk about. And so it's very frustrating when they make decisions that affect you in your trauma.
About your body. Yep.
Yes,
It's
because
crazy. It's
it's
crazy.
and so yeah, it is a big deal. And what I mean, really, it's part of my I'm also, so I raised my daughter this way, and I think we need to start using the appropriate terms. I know people like more nice terms, but the reality is, like a miscarriage is really a spontaneous abortion, and people don't want to use that word because they don't like abortion, but that's what your body is doing. And I
It's
think
aborting the baby. Yes.
and
Yes.
I think that if people understood that, they might be more empathetic and sympathetic to why certain processes are involved and such. But I hear
I'm glad that we're talking about this abortion piece because, we do support women who've gone through abortion as well. We have a care package tailored to them and a support group, because it is a form of loss. Whether they chose to abort the pregnancy or they had to for medical reasons.
Right.
Like there are mental health issues that need to be addressed. They could be blaming themselves. They could have all of this suffering, grief, silent suffering going on
Right.
because of
Whatever the reason, you're
what had
there to
happened.
support them, and that is, yeah, I think that's wonderful too, because the, I feel like people have to do what they have to do to take care of themselves, both physically and emotionally. And I love that you are there for them for whatever that is. I really do love that. And it
Yeah.
just shows
A
to
no
me,
judgment zone. It's a
I
no judgment zone. We want them to get the support that they need to help with their mental health and moving forward.
and
So
that's
yeah,
exactly why you are such a beautiful example of being the pebble to me, because it's about just being there to do lots of little steps to help those people, meeting them where they are. That's what
meeting
it's,
them where they are.
you know,
Absolutely. I love the way you said
um,
that.
because whatever faith you're in, I think the tenets of those of most faiths really are about that, like just, being a good, whether it's being a good neighbor, the golden rule, they're all about like just meeting that person and doing what they need in that moment. And that's exactly
Right.
what your group that you've created is that you needed somebody in that at a time, and you felt like they received you where you were, and you therefore have paid that forward tons of times, and you've made those ripples. And that's why I usually use the term ripples instead of paying it forward, because it's not just that it goes forward, it goes out, that you have made something bigger, because with each person that you have helped, they are not just going to help someone, but they're going to live a bigger, better life. And so
Right.
that's why I love the idea of the ripples, is it's not just that they continue, but they grow. And so they don't just go
Sure.
one direction. To me, like paying it forward is like you run, right? It's monodirectional. But with
Mhm.
ripples, they go out every way, right? So
And I love how you're saying that because, our efforts for outreach have rippled. In fact, I didn't mention this as we were talking about support groups, but now we have partnered with someone who has curriculum to help women with pregnancy after loss, because that is a very scary time in a woman's life
exactly.
after if when they become pregnant again after experiencing pregnancy loss, you're worried like most of the time,
I'm sure,
knowing
especially if you've
the
had a
the other
second.
side of what happens. And so like being able to get with their mentor or sit in a group where other people are, going through that, it's so meaningful and it's truly helpful. I when I got pregnant with my rainbow baby, I did not even put a room together until maybe 30 days out. And I only had a baby shower because it's something that family wanted to gift to me. But, I was in the mindset of, okay, well, what if this does not go the way that we are planning? Then I have to go and look at these tangible items
Yeah, I bet.
and and be spiraled and triggered again. So, if we're able to meet women at that need and help as they are as they're carrying this pregnancy, it's going to be a better pregnancy for them because they, tr- you know, worry impacts your body
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
physically.
No,
And
that
so,
makes so much
yeah,
sense to me. Absolutely. And I just
yeah,
just think about that, and that and just the constant fear, the constant anxiety as you pass each date, especially like in your case where you've had more than one, because you might be able
Right,
to say, oh, well, many women have had one, but if you've struggled more than once,
right.
each date that you wanted to get past with the previous, and then, I can just imagine. And, when do we feel safe to tell other people because you don't want to hear
Yes.
about it? And
I did
so,
not tell anyone until I was showing because of
right,
that, for that
right,
simple reason. I didn't want them following up if something went wrong or any of the things. And then, now being exposed to, okay, this is the other side of pregnancy. I could lose this baby at any phase. Like,
right.
even at the 10-month mark, like it could still all go
Well,
wrong.
especially since
And
you've
that
had
is
a friend with
so scary.
stillbirth, like I can't even imagine,
Right.
like, so it does, nothing feels safe until the baby is crying
Is
in
there.
your arms.
Mm,
Well,
for sure.
you've shared so much, and I'm truly touched by you. And like I said at the beginning, I
Oh,
really
thank
feel
you.
fortunate to have met you. And
Likewise.
what would you say has been the greatest blessing back to you for having created this group and found this sort of channel for what you went through? What would you say is the greatest lesson or blessing coming back to you for what you've done coming out of this?
Just knowing that we've created something where there is now community around loss so that people don't feel isolated, alone, broken, because pregnancy loss is, in fact, quite common. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in a miscarriage. 1 in 60 stillbirths are happen on a regular basis. To know that they now have a next step resource through our care package program that gives them some immediate tangible comfort items plus some grief support things like a book and a journal, and also redirects them to our website where there are additional resources of therapists, support groups, books, podcasts, songs that help during this time of loss. Being able to reach them based on how they want to navigate their grief in a positive way. uh, I mean, that fills my heart. It
Yeah,
fills my heart every time I know that we're able to give this community something that we didn't have.
yeah,
We didn't when I went to the when I learned about my, the baby no longer had a heartbeat. They addressed me clinically,
yeah,
and then I was left on my own to figure it out.
yeah.
And the
It's a
more
long
awareness
walk
we
to the
spread,
parking garage after that ultrasound, isn't it?
absolutely. I finally got to the car and I just bawled my eyes out because I
Yeah,
didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to tell anyone what
right.
had just happened to me. But to know that we can connect them to help it every time we're able to do that, it fills my heart. And these partnerships that we are now making with women's clinics, and most recently Texas Children's Pavilion for Women and their NICU department, to have the care packages on site so
Oh,
that women don't leave without the next step resource.
yeah,
Like, I could live on cloud nine forever just knowing that, because that wasn't available to me. And, even if your miscarriage happens early on, which is what miscarriage means, early term loss, there are still grief feelings that you have to deal with. There are still mental health challenges that have to be addressed. And so the fact that we can get these resources in their hands with before they leave the hospital. Now, mind you, we don't expect them to open it the same day, right? But when they're ready, they know where to go to.
amen to
It
that.
just
Amen.
it's just so it's so great. It's so great. And I love every part about that.
The joy,
Um,
I could just hear it in your voice. And I
yeah.
will make
Yeah.
sure that we share all of your information and how people can support you and help get more of those uh, care packages into more hands because I just think that that is just a treasure. So, Jamilah, it's
Yes.
been a true pleasure. So,
Yes.
I'm
Our time
sure
is up
that
already. I could
it,
talk to you
I
all day
know,
about
I
this.
feel like we could talk forever. I am positive my
Yes.
audience, if they could be applauding you or you could hear them, are. And so, on behalf of them and my dog who suddenly decided to join us at this moment, I say thank
Hey
you.
there.
And thank
Yes.
you to my audience for joining us today. And please like and follow and all those things I'm supposed to say. Beanie says it too. And bye now.
Bye-bye.